Good evening, everyone. How are you people doing? Should I ask at the start of the class as well? How's the juice? Okay, so we were at chapter 13, done with one session, some of the basic concepts and some of the easy topics. I'm good, Sirbi. Thank you. The basics, the common points, sole proprietor, partnership, and LLP, of course. Then we're done with the local bodies. And we came across a word, compoundable offense. I received some of the literal meanings, some of the Google meanings from your end. And I had given you this homework of reading about these different types of offenses. What are compoundable, not compoundable offenses? What are cognizable, non-cognizable offenses? What are bailable, non-bailable offenses? I hope you have read about them. Before we proceed further, I need to discuss with you just 1 or 2 minutes. What are these offenses? Because what happens usually is when I was a student as well, I used to cram these and just without getting to understand their meaning. That's good. Okay. So why are some people still writing good evening, ma'am? I'm sir. At least am I visible to you? Okay. Fine. Sir, please. Okay. Okay. Fine. So good evening, sir. I expect. Chali. So let's complete what I've given to you. So we first have this. What is it? Right? Compoundable and non-compoundable offense. What is compoundable? What is compoundable offense? Did you guys go through these words? Did you guys read about it? What is the compoundable offense and what is the non-compoundable offense? Still, ma'am, good evening. I don't know what are you guys up to. 6 in the evening and sir, ma'am, me confusion. Seriously. Okay. So this is this offense which can be compounded. An offense that can be compounded. Compounded literally means in our language, in our even in layman language, which can be settled, right? Suppose the complainant he goes to the court and that says, I'm ready for settlement. That can be compoundable. You have to pay a compounding fee to the court because obviously court's time is involved, right? That can be compromised. Oh, okay. Fine. Thanks for clearing the air, Sandeep. Thank you. Sandeep, thank you. Okay, so yes, what it is that can be compounded, and someone rightly said that can be compromised, right? Pooja said that can be compromised. Obviously, that can be compromised between the two parties, the complainant and the defendant, and you just have to pay the compounding fee. Then obviously non-compoundable, which cannot be compromised, cannot be compounded. So obviously, which cannot be compounded against a compounding fee can be settled without the interference of court. They would be somewhat of a serious nature. Okay. Fine. So then comes cognizable and non-cognizable. This term, yes. Okay. Cognizable and non-cognizable. What are the cognizable offenses? The police can arrest without a warrant. Okay, the police can arrest without a warrant. Let me see. What does this? Right? You don't need examples to these terms. Just understand the meaning of these terms, right? We'll have to delve deep into law. You can read about some of the offenses and all. It's just a term we came across a term. I'm just here to tell you the meaning. Okay. After the break or at the end of the session, if we have time, I'll give you examples related to this. Fine. And what are the non-cognizable offenses? Where you are required an arrest warrant. The police requires an arrest warrant to arrest someone. Fine. Bailable. Quite obvious. We've seen it in movies and sitcoms and all. Bailable. The person can be released against bail. And non-bailable, the person cannot be released against bail. Payment of a fee, bail fee, and can be released till the court trial. Obviously, where the police does not require an arrest warrant, this would be of serious nature. And where non-bailable, even the police cannot release a person on furnishing of a bail bond, this would be of serious nature. Right? So non-compoundable, cognizable, and non-bailable. These are the three types of offenses which are seem to be of serious nature. Okay? So this is the basic thing. Compoundable, non-compoundable, and all kind of offenses. You might have read about it in your law as well, and we covered it over here. Now, coming to today's topic, government audit. Quite interesting. Yes, Pooja, right. So, what do we have? You need to be well versed with this kind of general knowledge as how does the government work. So we have Indian democracy run by central government. At the center, then state government or UTs, union territories, for respective states and union territories. Then we have local bodies further. This is the hierarchy, right? At the top of the hierarchy, central government, then this state government, and at last, at the bottom of the hierarchy, the local bodies. Yes, offense means breaching of law. That is why it is an offense. Fine. This is our federal structure, where two types of governments run the country. Basically, the central government runs the whole nation, and the states run the respective states, union territories. That is clear? Okay. So I am just covering here some basic terms and concepts which are going to find place in your topic to come, the government audit. We have done this portion, local bodies, in the last session. Okay, now coming to the topic of government audit. So central government. Can anybody tell me where does the central body, the central government make laws? How are laws made at the center and for the state. Some states have their respective state acts applicable in their state, throughout their state, and the laws made at the center, they are applicable throughout the nation. So which body makes the laws at the center, passes the laws at the center and at the state? Can anybody tell me? I'll wait for your answer. Oh, good. Good, Mr. Jain. Good. Really good. Central government has been correctly answered by Rohan Jain, sorry. And what about state, please? States laws, UT's laws, how are they made and approved? Anyone? Yes, Harsh, really nice, really nice. So the parliament makes and passes the laws. Not makes, basically passes. The respective ministries make the laws. In parliament, we have the lower house, Lok Sabha, and the upper house, Rajya Sabha. Okay. And then it is further, the bill passed is further approved by the president. Passed by the, when the president signs, approves the bill, it becomes a law throughout the nation. So this is how laws are made at the central level. And at the state level, we have this legislative assembly. The word legislative is basically derived from a Latin term where legis means to make laws. Lative means the person who makes the laws. So it is basically legislative assembly means the place where the elected representatives make laws. Legislative assembly. Okay. The central government is known by the name of union government as well. Union government. And it is state. We are covering government audit under these two topics. Local bodies we covered in the last session. Whenever you prepare any chapter, when there are a lot of topics, just sequence them. Just group and regroup them so that it becomes easy for you to revise and relocate, basically spot your answers and topics. Fine. This was a basic thing which we need to discuss before we start with government audit. And the departments, the corporations which fall under these governments, their audit is known as government audit. Okay, their audit is known as government audit, right? Shall let's move ahead with our topic for the day, government audit. So it says the definition of government audit. We have it over here. This definition is as per the UN handbook. The UN handbook on government auditing and developing countries. And to learn any definition, right? Sometimes you have to go by the book. You understand the term, but you have to learn the definition by words. So it is always advised to break it. If the definition is a longer one, you always break it on the basis of certain criteria. Mnemonics not always work. They are a way to cram those answers or those points which you feel are many number, and sometimes it becomes difficult to just understand them or categorize them on the basis of your understanding. But here, if we understand the basic nature of the point, we can always regroup the definition after classifying the points. So here we go. What is government audit? Simply the definition goes. So what is government audit? The first criteria is what? Okay. So don't write your answer in this manner in the exam. Okay. This is something which is there for your learning only. How to learn the definition. This is something, the word which everything written in parentheses, brackets. This is for your learning only. You have to write the definition as it is. Don't use the words in parentheses. You have to regroup it and write it at one stretch. So government, first point to learn is what is. It is the objective, systematic, professional and independent examination. Examination is checking the books. Independent, not influenced. Professional, a person professionally eligible to do this independent examination. Systematic, follows the system step by step. And objective. Objective means with an object in mind. Right? As proper, according to proper guidelines. So the objective, systematic, professional and independent examination. Independent examination of what? Which? Of government operations? Which operations? Of financial, relating to money. Administrative, relating to management. And working and other operations. So till now, government audit is the objective, systematic, professional and independent examination of financial, administrative and other operations. Whose? Independent examination of whom? A public entity. Basically a public entity. Obviously, government's involvement would be there if it is a public entity. When is this examination made? Made subsequently to their execution. So when these operations are executed, after their execution, we need to check. Made subsequently means after execution of these operations. Financial, administrative and other operations. Why is such examination made? For the purpose. Why is answered this purpose? For the purpose of evaluating what do they say, what do they contain, and verifying them whether they are true and correct. For the purpose of evaluating and verifying them. And how do you examine them? Through audit. By presenting a report. We present a report containing explanatory comments. We give our comments and explain them on what we have evaluated and verified, on our audit findings, together with conclusions. So explanatory comments, and then what do we conclude? And further, we also recommend for future actions. What should be done, what should not be done. By whom? By the responsible officials. So at a stretch with me, government audit is the objective, systematic, professional and independent examination of financial, administrative and other operations of a public entity made subsequently to their execution for the purpose of evaluating and verifying them by presenting a report containing explanatory comments on what the auditor has found on audit finding. We have to explain, giving our comments, together with what do we conclude finally, and giving the recommendations for future actions by responsible officials. The auditors here, the responsible officials. Right? This is a special case. And after a definition, and in the case of examination of financial statements. So if your controls, administrative operations, other operations, so here this is financial as well. And in the case of examination of financial statements, expressing the appropriate professional opinion, the same what we have been doing till now, regarding the fairness of the presentation. How fair does the presentation go? So in steps, we have divided the definition and we have to learn it in this manner. These points are basically there to make you remember, to help you remember the point. These are not to be written in your answer. Your answer should be, if your question comes, define government audit. Government audit is the objective, systematic, professional, independent examination of financial, administrative, and other operations of a public entity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts are divided the definition. And you can learn it in this manner. Fine. So this is the definition as per the UN handbook on government audit. Coming next, what are the objectives of government audit? Why is government audit conducted? What is the need of conducting government audit of financial government bodies? So the major portion of government money comes from public in the form of taxes, fees, levies. That money belongs to the public. What does the government do? What does a democratic government do? Collects money from the public, right? Collects money from them and spends upon them. Some people pay taxes, some don't pay. Some who are doing good, they pay taxes. Whether they are direct taxes, they are indirect taxes. So they give money to the government. So basically, government has got public funds with it. They don't create money or they don't grow trees with money on it. They collect money, that is their fund, and that is a public fund. So whether public funds are being utilized properly for the benefit or developmental purposes for the public or not. So government audit serves as a mechanism or process for public accounting of government funds, right? To make them transparent, whether they are being utilized properly or not. So accounting for public funds, 1 point. Then comes second point, appraisal of government policies. Appraisal means checking basically. Appraisal means review over here. How good are the government policies? Are they doing good? Are they going as per the budget? What were these government policies supposed to yield? What would have been their results? Are they yielding as per their results? These government policies are giving us the benefit which they were intended to? Or there are some shortcomings or limitations which need to be considered. So government audit by the responsible officials, whoever the responsible officials are on the seat of the auditor, it provides public accounting of the operational part of the policy. How are these policies being implemented in the general public? Management. There should not be any mismanagement of funds or policies. Program and policy aspects of public administration, as well as accountability of the officials administrating them. Health officials during the time of COVID, the ventilators, the oxygen cylinders, the medicines, everything. Government came out with a lot of policies, the ration policy, food distribution policy, different departments were there which were handling their responsibilities, right? And to see their operational parts, how are they working, how are they being managed, whether the program and policy aspects which were intended, which were written, which were discussed, are being implemented properly for under public administration, and the officials, their responsibility, handling, fixing them, their accountability, whether they're doing it well or not. Corrective actions. If something has gone wrong or something is not yielding result, or errors are there in the policies to implement, implementational errors, executional errors. So audit observations given by the auditor based on factual data. What is factual data? Data that is facts, basically facts generated from the public domain. Facts are facts. You just observe them, carry out research work upon them. So you collect the factual data, and that factual data tells us what was budgeted and what is actual. What is the difference? Where is the deviation? So this deviation is known as lapses, right? Lapses of the lower hierarchy. Lower hierarchy, people who do the groundwork. There are people who plan, who make the policies, and then there are people on the top, they plan, and at the bottom, there are people in this hierarchy at ground level who execute these plans. So what are the lapses at this level in executing? They help the supervisory level officers to take corrective measures. Administrative accountability. What is administrative accountability? The main objective is a combination of ensuring accountability of the administration to legislature. Laws made, who is accountable for the administration of those laws, and functioning as an aid, help the administration of laws, policies, and programs. So these are the 4 objectives of government audit. Now, the very important part, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Who is he? CAG. He is the auditor of the government, auditor to the government. Auditor to the government, CAG. Comptroller and Auditor General of India. In India, please be with me, read with me, the function of government audit is discharged by the independent. Independent means not influenced by any ministry, any government. Statutory. Statutory authority means a body established under a law passed by the parliament. So it is a statutory body. The Comptroller and Office of the Comptroller and Auditor General, through the agency of the Indian Audit and Accounts Department. So basically, this is a department of the government, Indian Audit and Accounts Department, and through this, the CAG carries out the function of government audit. What does he do? To discharge his functions, the CAG watches that various authorities of the governments, state government, central government, act in regard to financial matters in accordance with the Constitution. The birth chart of our country, the Constitution of any country. So financial matters are handled in accordance with the constitutions and the laws as made by the parliament, and conform means stick to, go by them. Conform to the rules or orders made thereunder. What rules have been laid down by the government authorities and what orders are passed from time to time. So CAG is the authority, the person who carries out the function of government audit in India, and he is our current CAG of India, Shri Girish Chandra Murmu. And we have to cover the points relating to CAG. How is the CAG appointed? What is the remuneration of CAG? For what term is CAG appointed? How can the CAG resign or be removed, under what circumstances? Some other legal provisions regarding to the CAG, the duties of CAG and the powers of CAG. This is our major topic in government audit, and it encompasses almost 90% of the topic in government audit. Let's move further. So, appointment of the CAG of India. The President of India shall appoint the CAG of India. Comptroller and Auditor General. Easy, the President appoints. So these particular points are important for your correct, incorrect, and MCQ type questions. Remuneration. The Parliament is the competent authority to make laws to determine the salary and other working conditions of service. So the competent authority in this case to decide the remuneration and working conditions, the conditions of service of CAG, is the Parliament. President is done with his work of appointing the CAG of India. Now it's upon the Parliament to decide his salary and other conditions of service. And such conditions cannot be varied to his disadvantage after his appointment. Once he is appointed, such conditions under which he is appointed, the TNC of service, cannot be changed to his disadvantage. If he feels that he gets a disadvantage due to this variation in the terms, that cannot be changed. After the, okay, let us see this. Suppose there is this person A, right? There is this person A. He has been appointed as a CAG and his age is 60 years. So his term would be 6 years. It will be 66. Or up to the age of 65 years, whichever is less. What is less? 65. So it won't be 6 years, but in this case, age parameter will prevail. And upon attaining the age of 65 years, the CAG shall retire. Now the term would not be 6 years. Again, there is this person B who has been appointed as CAG. His age is 58. So 6 years is 64 and age of 65. Whichever is less, 64 is less. So in this case, 6 years is his term and he'll resign, he'll retire after attaining 64 years of age. So 6 years or up to the age of 65 years, whichever is less, whichever comes first, that would be the term of the CAG of India. Okay? Removal or resignation. Removal or resignation. So he shall not be removed from office except on the ground of proven misbehavior or incapacity. He shall not be removed from office except on the ground of proven misbehavior or incapacity. Incapacity you all have read in the Contract Act. Basically, a person is incapable, injury, physical or mental, insolvency, whatever it is, whatever conditions render the person incapable of performing his duty, it becomes incapacity. Or if there is misbehavior, that misbehavior has to be proved. Only then he can be removed by the president. How can he be removed? He can be removed only when each house of the parliament, each house of the parliament, so the houses are Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, each house of parliament decides to do so by majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of the house present and voting. This present word is really important. So whosoever members are present over there in the house for the session, parliament session, this particular matter is put forward. So out of all the members present, at least greater than equal to 2/3 of the members. Majority is 2/3. You all have read about it in ordinary resolution and special resolution. Majority. So 2/3 of the majority out of the present people vote for the removal of CAG. Only then he can be removed. The decision can be taken to remove the CAG of India in the parliament. So the first 2 points relate to removal. The third point relates to resignation by the CAG himself. The CAG can resign any time through a resignation letter addressed to the President of India. So this is something which is very common. You always address your resignation letter to the person who appointed you, to the authority who appointed you. So in this case, the authority who appointed the CAG was the president. Obviously, when he wants to resign, he has to send his resignation letter to the president, and it should be addressed to the President of India. Sir, term wala point, please. Okay, Tanu. Term wala point is, it says a person can be appointed, a person who has been appointed as CAG. Okay, he can be appointed, he can remain in the office, he can hold the office only for 6 years. The term is 6 years. This is the term, 6 years terms, or up to the age of 65 years, whichever is less. If a person has completed 6 years but has not completed 65 years of age when he is holding the chair of CAG of India, okay, his term ends after 6 years. And a person who is holding the chair as CAG of India, before completing 6 years as the term, he attains the age of 65 years. The condition is reached, and then will not wait for completing the 6 years of the term. He'll retire when he reaches the age of 65 years, attains the age of 65 years. So there are two conditions, 6 years or 65 years, whichever he achieves early, he'll retire at that time. I hope Tanu it's clear. So these are the points related to appointment, remuneration, term, and removal or resignation of the CAG of India. Some constitutional provisions which you need to know about the CAG of India. It says Article 149. So see, like you have provisions in your law, you have sections, you have subsections, clauses, subclauses, right? Provisos, everything in your law. Constitution has articles on every matter. A written constitution has articles on every matter. So this is Article 149. Article 149 states, what does Article 149 say? The CAG shall perform such duties Surbi, 6 years is what is written in the law. It is fixed. But if you attain the age of 65 years before that, even after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years of appointment, even if you attain the age of 65 years, you have to retire. That is the end of your term. 5 years is just, that is an example, because in my example, I took A to be 60 years. He could be 61, he could be 62. A person appointed as a CAG of India at the age of 62 years, he'll retire after 3 years, because he'll attain the age of 65 years after 3 years. He'll not wait for 6 years to be completed as his term, because whichever comes earlier, either the person attains, the CAG attains the age of 65 years, or he completes the age of a term of 6 years before attaining the age of 65 years. Not a very complex point, it's quite easy. Okay. So Article 149 states, I'll come to your point, Rohan. Article 149 states that the CAG shall perform such duties and exercise such powers in relation to the accounts of the union. I told you what is union, center, and of the states, and any other authority or body as may be prescribed by or under any law made by the Parliament. Quite simple. CAG shall perform such duties and exercises in relation to the accounts of the centre and the states or any authority or body as per the law made by the Parliament. And this particular act, the CAG Act, the Comptroller and Auditor General's duties, powers and conditions of service Act 1971 defines, this act contains the functions and powers of the CAG of India. Then comes Article 150 in the Constitution, which provides that the accounts, what do you mean by accounts? The books, the accounts, okay? the books, the accounts, what has been received, what has been expanded, how it has been expanded. So the accounts of the union, what was the deficit, what was the budget, what was the actual collection, what was the actual expenditure, all these accounts, what were the salaries, what were the other expenses. So the accounts of the union and of the states shall be kept in such form, physical, electronic, what is the format, whatever, as the president may. So the president will say, on the advice of the CAG. So it is prescribed, the form of the accounts of the union and the states are prescribed by the president. Prescribed by the president on the advice of the CAG. CAG only gives advice. The CAG does not prescribe the format or the manner of presentation or layout of the accounts of the union and states. It only advises the president that these are the formats and you may prescribe this. Article 151 of the Constitution requires that the reports of the CAG relating to the accounts of the union state shall be submitted to the president or the governor, as the case may be, who shall cause them to be laid before House of Parliament, state legislature. So please see. Okay, fine. When we talk about the center, okay, so the center is the union. Accounts of the union shall be submitted to the president, because the president is the head of the state, of the union of India. Who shall cause them? Cause them means who shall make them to be laid. Laid means to present. It should be presented. He shall assure it that these are presented before the houses of the parliament. Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. So this is a case of only center. CAG is one duty. Now comes to this duty relating to the accounts of the states. So in this case, the CAG will make sure that the accounts of the state, who is the head of the state after for the governing? The governor of every state. He is the person, he is the authorized person, not the chief minister or the prime minister in the case of India. So shall be submitted to the governor, who shall cause them to be laid before the house of the state legislature, the legislative assembly. That is what we did to make you understand this point. We did the basics. Center, union, parliament. State, legislative assembly, governor. Center headed by the president and state headed by the governor. So this slash which is there, the left side belongs to the union and the right side belongs to the state everywhere. Okay, so the reports of the CAG relating to the accounts of union or the state shall be submitted to the president or the governor, as the case may be. And further, they shall be responsible, the president or the governor shall assure it that these are laid before the house of the parliament or the state legislature, whatever the case is, as per the respective. I'm stressing much on these points because they might not look like descriptive questions, but for your short questions and objective questions, these might be important. 149, 150 and 151 articles. Okay. The duties of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. What are his duties? The Comptroller and Auditor Generals, if somebody who is in Delhi, if you pass through the ITO, Income Tax Office Chowk over there, just cross it and you will see the building of the CAG of India on the right hand side. The office of the CAG of India. The Comptroller and Auditor General's duties, powers and condition of service act defines the functions and powers in details. So what are the duties? The CAG shall first duties with respect to the compilation and submission of accounts of union and states. So he shall assure that the accounts are properly compiled as per the format prescribed by the president on his advice, and submit the accounts of union and states. Right? So accounts of union will be submitted to the parliament, houses of the parliament, and of the states would be submitted to the legislative assembly. The CAG shall be responsible municipal corporations, local bodies. So CAG shall be responsible for compiling the accounts of the union and of each state from the initial and subsidiary accounts. Like we maintain books, they maintain initial and subsidiary accounts rendered to the audit and accounts offices under his control. So the states and the union furnish initial draft and subsidiary accounts to the audit and account offices under his control, the control of CAG. He, from these books, these data, he shall get the accounts compiled. And who submits this data to the accounts and audit office of CAG? The treasuries of the respective governments, union and states, the offices or various departments which are responsible for keeping and maintaining such accounts. They prepare and maintain such accounts, the initial and subsidiary accounts. Then they present these accounts to the audit and accounts office of the CAG. The CAG is responsible for compiling these accounts into a presentable form. Like we compile financial statements from trial balance, ledgers, journal entries, everything, subsidiary books, like that. Further, from the accounts compiled by him, prepare in each account string under the respective heads. So under respective heads, what are the annual receipts? Heads means the various departments, not ledger heads, various departments. What were the annual receipts and what were the disbursements for which the amount was expended for the purpose of the union, state, or union territory having a legislative assembly. Some union territories have their legislative assembly, like states, some don't. Okay. Though union territories which have their legislative assembly, like Delhi, they have their legislative assembly, so they are not governed by the center. The union territories which have their own legislative assembly, they are governed by that legislative assembly. The union territories which don't have their legislative assembly, they are under the direct control of the central government. And shall submit those accounts. Now, she shall submit those accounts to the president or the governor of the state, or in the case of union territory, we have the administrator. The union territory which has a legislative assembly, there is administrator. On or before such dates as he may, with the concurrence of the government concerned. In discussions with the government concerned. Government concerned means the central government, the state government, or the UT government. So what is it like? It is like this. So this is our CAG. Okay. And state or the UT which has legislative assembly. Fine. Then we have the union or the central government, or you see the union government. So their offices submit their accounts. What accounts? Initial and subsidiary accounts to the Audit and Accounts Department. Here it is, the Audit and Accounts Offices. Okay, the CAG's office compiles it to give it a presentable form, and in the case of state, submits it to the governor or the administrator of union territory, and in the case of center, submits it to the president. It is like submitting the profit and loss and balance sheet to an authority. Okay. Shall, insofar as the accounts for the compilation or keeping of which he is responsible enable him to do so, give to the union government or to the state government or to the governments of union territories having legislative assemblies, as the case may be, such information as they may from time to time require, and render such assistance in the preparation of the annual financial statements as they may ask reasonably for. So, the CAG, from the accounts rendered by the center and the state governments or the UT governments having legislative assembly, compiles those accounts, presents them to the president or the governor as per the government concerned, and also helps these governments, the center and the state governments, if they require any assistance, any advisory, any information while preparing their annual financial statements or any other help they require, they should seek the help and support of the CAG for that particular. So the first duty is the compilation and submission of accounts of union and states. Okay. Now that was compilation and submission of accounts. Now, Comptroller and Auditor General. So general provisions relating to audit. CAG has a duty. What is the duty? To check for the utilization of money by various government departments. To audit and report on all expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India and of each state and of each union territory having a legislative assembly. So Consolidated Fund of India relates to center, the funds related to states, and the funds related to union territories. Each respective government maintains its funds. So the CAG shall audit and report upon the expenditure from the funds maintained by these governments, to check, to ascertain, to come to a conclusion whether the money is shown in the accounts as having been disbursed. The monies were disbursed. The monies are disbursed after proper sanctions, requisitions are made, request is made, then sanction is sought, then money is disbursed. So the money is disbursed for a particular expenditure. Were the monies legally available for that particular expenditure? There was an account for infrastructure development. Was the amount disbursed from that particular account maintained under the state? Were the funds used for the same purpose? Because they were legally available for the development of infrastructure only. Roads, bridges, rails, canals. Were they used for the same purpose and used in the same service for which they were intended to, and applicable to the service or purpose to which they have been applied or charged, and whether the expenditure conforms to the authority which governs it, have been properly sanctioned by the authority. So the preparation of accounts is the offices of those governments. We did now the treasuries, offices or departments, various departments of those governments. Whatever department is, they prepare the accounts. The second fund is how are the funds maintained? To audit and report all transactions of the center, union, and of the states relating to contingency funds and public accounts. What are the contingency funds? Required funds in the era of corona, any natural disasters, to keep up some funds for contingency. So are these funds being properly maintained and checked for? These are the provisions relating to audit. So money utilization, funds maintenance, and financial statements. So CAG has to audit and report on all the trading, manufacturing, and P&L accounts and balance sheets and other subsidiary accounts kept in any department of the union or of the states. They submit their accounts as per the format prescribed by the President of India. The CAG compiles those accounts and submits to the President or the Governor just to check on the working efficiency of the government units. The CAG helps these governments to prepare their annual financial statements, and further, it also audits the financial statements of these government departments of the center and the state. Whatever be the trading, manufacturing, and profit and loss accounts, or the balance sheets, the whole financial statements of the government units, the government departments. So these are the provisions. After compilation and submission, that work the CAG carries out to submit to the President and the Governor or the Governor. Now in audit of the expenditure of the government offices, the funds maintained of the government offices, and the third is audit of their financial statements, what we have been studying till now, the audit of financial statements. Audit of receipts and expenditure. So audit of receipts and expenditure is where any body or authority is substantially financed by grants or loans from the consolidated fund of India. So any government body is being financed, the funds are being advanced. You could see during the previous 2 years, the corona period, many such announcements were made. Grants were given to different departments of the government for the well-being of the people. Whether it be the distribution of ration or it be the distribution of medicines, cylinders, maintaining health amenities. So the government units from the consolidated fund of India is the union fund or the state funds or the UT funds. The funds were being sanctioned to various departments in the state, in the country, so that they could be used for the benefit of the common man. So when any authority or office of the government receives funds in the form of grants from the respective governments, CAG shall audit all such receipts. How and when were such funds received and how were they expended? And after examining and auditing, he'll give his report on the receipt and expenditure of such amount, such grants. So we just give a break. Okay, you cannot understand everything in just one after another, right? You need to give yourself a break. Understand the topic. What I am telling you is that is not independent. He helps them in preparation of accounts. Whatever information they see, come over here. What does it say? Information as they may from time to time require and render such assistance in the preparation of the financial statements. This is renders assistance. Whatever information you require, whatever assistance you need, prepare your financial statement and submit to me. Like your teacher helps you, gives you assistance, assists you in doing different work and ask them, okay, you can submit it to me and I'll check and I'll give you my review in the same manner. Just understand what I'm telling you over here and just give it a read after the class. If you're not able to understand, then come up to me. Right? Okay. So what is the meaning of substantially financed? So substantially financed is where the grant or loan to any body or authority of the government from the Consolidated Fund of India in the case of central, or of the fund of any state or union territory having a legislative assembly in a financial year is not less than rupees 25 lakhs. And the amount of such grant or loan is not less than 75% of the total expenditure of that body or authority. Such body or authority shall be deemed for this purpose to be substantially financed by such grants or loans as the case may be. So any body or authority of the government suppose this is the government body, right? Here we are. This is this government body. The total expenditure is 10 crores in that financial year. And they have received from the Consolidated Fund of India, CFI, the central government department has received a fund of, you would say, is not less than, okay? And what would I say? What would I say? 8 crores. It is more than 25 lakhs. And it is not less than, greater than 75% of 10 crores. Suppose it receives a grant of 30 lakhs. Okay. And its total expenditure was 50 lakhs. 75% of 50 lakhs is 37.5 lakhs. 75% is 37.5 lakhs. So the total expenditure is 50 lakhs. Less than 75% of the expenditure is 37.5 lakhs. Out of this total expenditure, the function, the work for which the grant was received was 30 lakhs grant received, total expenditure is 37.5 lakhs. So it says that if the grant is more than 25 lakhs, it is more than 25 lakhs, 30 lakhs, and the amount of such grant or loan is not less than 75% of the total expenditure. So 75% of total expenditure is 37.5 lakhs, but we have received only 30 lakhs. Both the conditions should meet, only then it will be substantially financed. Had the grant been 40 lakhs, the total expenditure is 50 lakhs of this particular department. Had the grant been 40 lakhs, it is more than 75% of the total expenditure, more than 37.5 lakhs, and it is more than 25 lakhs. Both the conditions met. This particular department is substantially financed by the government grants. Okay, this is the meaning of substantially financed. So in the case of such government departments or authorities or bodies where they are substantially financed from the respective governments, the CAG shall carry out the audit of the receipts and expenditure, because they are using money of the grants. They are using money from the grants given to them by the respective governments. It is their duty to check how are these grants being utilized, where are these being expended, and to report on the receipts and expenditure as audited by them. So audit of grants and loans. So where any grant or any loan is given by the government for any specific purpose from the respective fund, not being a foreign state or international organization. So only government departments, foreign state organizations or international organizations are not concerned. Covered over here. CAG shall scrutinize the procedures. How were the grants sanctioned? What was the procedure? Were they properly sanctioned by the proper authority who has been enshrined with the powers, who has been given with the powers to sanction those grants? And he shall satisfy himself to the fulfillment of conditions subject to which such grants or loans were given. So you will be given this grant out of the government funds. A government office and department of the government is told that you will be given this grant. For example, the local departments, right? The state governments or the central governments give their grants to the health departments. So you would be given this grant to carry out benefits with respect to the medicines, the treatment, and the vaccination against corona. You are being given this grant. This is an example. The specific purpose. So the CAG shall check whether proper procedures are followed, whether proper authorities sanctioned the grant, and whether conditions were met for receiving that particular grant. What would the CAG check next? For this purpose, the CAG has right of access after giving reasonable previous notice to the books of account of that authority or body. Now, the Consolidated Fund of India is not a government body. It is just a fund maintained by the center. It is a fund. The name has been given the Consolidated Fund of India. All the revenue, the taxes, collection, everything goes to the grants your government gets, whatever donations, they go to the Consolidated Fund of India, from where different expenses are met. Right? So for this purpose, the CAG will have right of access to the books of accounts of these government departments, but he has to give a reasonable means as per the facts and circumstances of the case. Could be 2 days, 3 days, 10 days, 1 week. Previous notice to that particular body that I will be requiring an access to your books of accounts to check whether grants have been met for the purpose for which they were sanctioned. How were these grants sanctioned? What was the amount? Were the conditions being fulfilled or not? So this is covered under audit of grants or loans. Audit of accounts of stores and inventory. Very simple. The CAG shall have authority to audit and report on the accounts of stores, inventory kept in any office or department of the union or the state. If they are trading, manufacturing units, the stationery, everything, the stores and inventories. Both condition. Ria, both condition. See, there it is and. You can see it is and, not or. That is why I'm telling you, just understand over here and give it a read. You will be able to grasp the concept. Audit of government companies and corporations. The duties and powers of the CAG in relation to audit of the accounts of government companies shall be performed as per the provisions of the Companies Act 2013. You have read it in your company audit, the audit of government companies and corporations. So the CAG will be the person over here. He shall appoint the auditor. As far as the government departments were concerned, the president appointed the CAG to audit the accounts of those departments. When it came to government companies and corporations, the power is given to the CAG. CAG shall appoint the auditor under subsection 5 or subsection 7 of section 139. So subsection 5 is related to first auditor, and subsection 7 is related to subsequent auditor after the first auditor of section 139. I suppose you have read about it. So CAG shall appoint the first auditor or the subsequent auditor of government companies and corporations and direct the auditor. He will be the person giving directions to such auditor how he has to conduct the audit of account of such government companies and what is the reporting he has to make and how he has to submit a copy of his audit report to the CAG. So he shall be giving directions, then any action to be taken, and what is the impact of the auditor's opinion on the accounts and financial statement of the company. CAG can give directions, what action needs to be taken as per the or the basis of the report given by the auditor appointed by him, and what will be its impact on the accounts and financial statement of that government company. So this is a part from the company audit chapter. Okay, see, very simple point, audit of government companies and corporations. Hanji, please tell now anything, any doubt. Come up with it. Riya's doubt is cleared. Sandeep's doubt is cleared. Surbi, are you clear with your doubt? He helps, he just gives them assistance, the government departments, the information which they would be requiring in a systematic manner. They require some information in a systematic manner. Suppose interdepartmental information like banks do in the case of RBI. RBI helps them in interbank transactions and clearing information, providing the information. Same way, CAG helps them in providing the required information. Every department renders their account to the CAG. So if there is any interdepartmental transaction or any accounts which they get confused with or need some clarity, they seek the help of the office of the CAG. It is not like this that he sits with them and makes them compile their prepare their financial statements. It is not like that. Any information the government departments require, they can seek the help of the CAG office. Further, they submit their financial statements to the CAG and he conducts their audit. Am I clear, Surbi? This is an independent audit. Okay. Okay, Kushi, who is eligible for CAG? I'll come up with it. And Rohan asked me, can the same person be appointed as CAG again after 6 years? Yes, I'll come to it. Eligibility and reappointment, I'll come to it. Kushi, I'll come to your point. Okay, so this point is also clear. Fine. So we can move ahead. So what were the duties? Come with to me again. Compile and submit accounts of union and states. General provisions relating to audit, which were money utilization, maintenance of funds and financial statements. Then audit of receipts and expenditure of which governmental bodies, which are substantially financed by those bodies. And that funds are given from the respective funds. Funds of the center for the central governmental offices, funds of the state for the state. Just you can imagine it from the point of view of that respective government. In the case of center, in the case of state, or in the case of UT having legislative assembly. Because in the case of UT, which is not having their own legislative assembly, then they get under the scope of the central government. They're covered under central government's powers. Then audit of grants or loans, AS12, audit of accounts of stores and inventory, and audit of government companies and corporations, as you have done in your chapter 10. Then, okay, now, how to carry out expenditure audit? This is one of the main topics. as we did over here. Accounting for public funds. This was it. Accounting for public funds. How are the funds being expended or utilized? So under this comes this expenditure audit. The funds being expended by the government. The funds being expended by the government to audit the expenditure of such funds, such money. The audit of government expenditure is one of the major components of government audit. The basic standards set for government audit of expenditure are to ensure, the objective of expenditure audit is to ensure that there is provision of funds authorized by the competent authority, fixing the limits within which expenditure can be incurred. So for every kind of expenditure, every particular expenditure, there are limits fixed, there is funds provided for separately, and they are being expended, used in the same manner as laid down in the governmental policies and programs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 kinds of expenditure audit. What expenditure audit standards? What are these? First is audit against rules and orders. What does the CAG check over here? What does he audit? He checks that whatever expenditure has been made, the expenditure incurred conforms means it has been expended as per the standards. Relevant provisions of the statutory enactment, the law, and in accordance with the financial rules and regulations framed by the competent authority. Such an audit is called as audit against rules and orders, that the expenditure has been made as per the rules as laid down under the act which is governing that expenditure. Have you ever heard or watched on TV the Finance Minister of India giving his or her budget speech? We'll be giving this much to infrastructure, health sector, IT sector, for the education, for development, different ministries. And they lay out the budget for the provision of funds, lakhs of crores, thousands of crores, hundreds of crores to this particular sector, as per the acts governing those ministries, those governmental departments. So the CAG shall check whether those government departments have expended their funds as per the rules of the acts governing those bodies and proper sanctions and as per the orders of the competent authority governing them. Then audit of sanctions. Who were the persons responsible for sanctioning such amount for a particular expenditure? A particular amount is expended with a proper sanction, whether the sanction is special sanction, special circumstances, or a general sanction accorded by the competent authority authorizing the expenditure. Yes, you can carry out this expenditure. Such an audit is called the audit of sanctions. Audit against provision of funds. The CAG shall check that there is a provision of funds out of which expenditure can be incurred, and the same has been authorized by competent authority. Such audit is called audit against provision of funds. We always maintain provisions, right? Suppose it's my birthday the next month, so I'll start maintaining a provision, saving out of pocket money. I'll start making a provision. I might have to give treat to my friends. What is I will have to give a treat to my friends. So I'll start making provision for that, saving money. That is how for particular contingencies or particular work, provisions are maintained, funds are maintained as per those provisions, and the CAG shall check whether the provisions are being maintained properly. For example, this is a coastal area which is quite used to or affected by the tornadoes or the cyclones. Tornado is not a term in India. Cyclones, okay? Cyclones. So, has proper provision been maintained under the Disaster Management Act for using the funds are being kept aside for using those funds in case the need arises in case of a natural calamity affecting the state or the area? This is the example for checking the provision of funds, audit against provision of funds. Then comes propriety audit. This propriety audit. I was going for party or for an outing with my friends. I asked my mother for some money. She gave me money. She gave me 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees. And you have to come and tell me how did you spend it. I want to check how rational you are while spending money. Do you waste? Do you commit wasteful expenditure? Or you use it wisely? Your objectives are also met and you also save some. You don't waste money. I go to the party, I enjoy a lot, I use my money, I come back home and I give a detailed report to my mother. This was the country for the evening get together. This was the conveyance and everything. So my mother will check. Oh, you rented, you booked a big cab for yourself while coming to home. Why? You could come in an auto or a mini cab. What was the requirement of booking this limousine or something like this? And you spend a lot of money on booking that cab. Was it required? So what is it? My mother will tell me this was not rational on your part. You could have come by auto or in just a simple cab, the mini cab. What was the requirement of expending over here so much? That is based upon rationality and wisdom. In the same way, the CAG checks whatever expenditure has been made. The general principles of financial propriety, rationality, and wisdom are considered properly. Wasteful expenditure is avoided. Okay. Wasteful expenditure is avoided and the money is used rationally and properly. So that is propriety audit. Expenditure is incurred with due regard to broad and general common principles of financial propriety. And the last standard of expenditure audit is performance audit. If you are expending on something, what is the result? What is the effectiveness? How are the government departments performing? So that the various programs, schemes, projects where large financial expenditure has been incurred are being run economically and are yielding results expected of them. For example, central government schemes like Manrega, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. These are the schemes which are being run by the government at the central level. So the CAG shall check whatever funds are being given under these programs, schemes, or any projects taken up. Financial expenditures are being yielding good results as expected. They are being run economically, and whatever results are expected out of these programs and schemes, the expenditure is being made for good. It is not getting wasted. This is known as performance audit. So we have audit against rules and orders, we have audit of sanctions, we have audit against provision of funds, we have propriety audit, and we have performance audit. we will be discussing. This is your answer. If you get a question, briefly tell us about expenditure audit. So this is good. This slide is going to be your answer on expenditure audit. What is expenditure audit? 4 to 5 marks. Now we'll discuss each standard of expenditure audit. What expenditure audit is, that the expenditure is made as per the basic standards. What are the basic standards? These are the 5 basic standards. The expenditure is as per audit, as per rules and as per the orders. It is properly sanctioned. Proper provision has been maintained for such expenditure. Propriety is considered, and such expenditure should yield proper performance. It should be effective in nature. 5 principles on the basis of which expenditure audit is conducted. What is checked in any expenditure? These 5 standards are checked in any expenditure. We'll discuss each standard turn by turn in detail as well. Okay, after the break. So I'll come. Okay, some people are asking me the meaning of certain terms in Hindi. You come after break, I'll tell you in Hindi as well. What is the meaning of that term? People who don't understand in Hindi need not feel insecure. I'll be telling them the meaning. I've told the meaning in English. I'll tell them in Hindi as well. What is the meaning of those layman terms? Okay. So here we go for a 15 minutes break. It is 7:25 and we'll come at 7:40. Okay. After break, we'll be continuing with this topic and I'll go through your doubts as well in the meantime. Okay, everyone. So, okay. People want to know the meaning of certain terms. First of all, Rohan's doubt was, can CAG be reappointed? No, CAG cannot be reappointed. Once he completes his term, he is not reappointed. He or she is not reappointed. Okay, Rohan? And then Khushi asked me who are eligible to be appointed as CAG. So there is a proper, you have to go through various exams, hold various posts in the Indian Accounts and Audit Department, and then you elevate to the post of the CAG of India. Okay, then there were some questions with respect to sanction and propriety. Okay, so sanction. Sanction means giving permission. Okay, sanction means giving permission, right? Then what was the else which you asked me? Sanction. This is not the sanction which the other countries are putting on Russia. Those are economic sanctions. That is a different thing. Don't confuse it with them, basically. Okay. You want its meaning in Hindi? It is called Savikriti. Giving permission. Savikriti. Right? And then propriety. Propriety means as per rules and principles, right? What is right? It is, if you can see in Hindi, it is uchit. Okay, fine. Sanction is giving permission. So maybe for all, for example, we as a family, we have maintained a fund. Whosoever wants to go to a trip, family trip, funds would be utilized out of that particular account. Whosoever wants to go to a trip with friends, solo, he or she will have to ask to the head of the family. So I asked my mother or father, I want to go on a trip with my friends, and how much money would you give me? So say, okay, father says, take this much amount from your mother. I sanction this much amount. Out of 10,000, I give you 4,000. You can take this. That is called sanction. Savikriti dena, giving permission. So sanctions are properly authorized. Whosoever is being given has been given the power to sanction some expenditure, fund out of some expenditure. A proper officer is there who has been given that power out of this fund for any purpose. You have to check whether this much fund, this much amount can be sanctioned or not. So if this amount is sanctioned, that amount is released for that particular work which the government department requires. And propriety is as per the example I gave you. My mother asked me, Ola cab and everything else, why did I book such an expensive fare cab? I could come by auto. The propriety is what is right as per the principles. How do you expend? You expend in the right manner as per the principles. You don't commit wasteful expenditure, or your expenditure should result into something. Okay. I hope it is clear. Sanction and propriety. Can we move ahead now? Via rules, regulation, principle, any difference? Rules, regulation, principle. Rules are something simply What would you say? Rules, regulations, principles. Principles are a set of standards. Regulation is something which you have to follow, which becomes a convention while following rules. Rules are always meant to be followed, regulations are always meant to be practiced, and principles are something which become convention over time. Okay, chaliye, let's move forward. So audit against rules and orders. What does it say? Audit against rules and orders aims to ensure that the expenditure conforms to the relevant provisions of the Constitution, of the laws and rules made thereunder. It also seeks that the expenditure is in accordance with the financial rules, regulations, and orders issued by a competent authority. Audit of expenditure against irregularity is of a quasi-judicial type of work performed by the audit authorities. Now, quasi-judicial, I'll explain. It involves interpretation. Let us complete this point, then I'll explain what is quasi-judicial. It involves interpretation of the Constitution, what is written in the Constitution, what is written in the law. Okay, statute means law, rules, regulations, and orders. The final interpretation of these, however, does not vest with the C&AG. C&AG can interpret it as per what he feels, right? So the final interpretation, power of interpretation does not vest. Final power of interpretation rests with the lawmaking authorities. So what rules and regulations we have to follow under audit against rules and orders? What the CAG has to check and is audit against rules and orders? Rules and orders regulating the powers to incur any expenditure and get it sanctioned from the Consolidated Fund of India. Quite simple. Or state fund. Rules and orders. What rules and orders does the CAG need to check? Rules and order dealing with the mode of presentation of claims against government, withdrawing money from the consolidated fund, how to withdraw. If there is claim against the government, somebody has put a claim against the government, any government department within the court trial or any process or under any law, a claim has been put against the government. How are these claims handled as per the rules? How do you withdraw money from different funds? And in general, financial rules prescribing what procedure to be followed by the government authorities and servants who deal with government transactions. Are they following all rules and orders? What are the rules and orders regulating their conditions of service, their pay, allowances? So these are all expenditure of the government. Salaries paid, allowances given, pensions of government servant. To carry out examination of various rules, regulations, and orders issued by executive authorities to check whether they are consistent with the provisions of the Constitution and other essential requirements of the audit. So this is something, this just gives you a detail what is meant by audit against rules and orders. We covered what are such rules and orders, how is such audit to be conducted, what rules and orders are to be checked, on what basis. So there are 4 kinds of such rules and orders which you need to check. Okay. So this is expenditure audit in detail. If you get a question, briefly explain expenditure audit against rules and orders. So against rules and orders, this slide. If you get briefly expenditure, explain expenditure audit, this slide. And if you are specifically asked audit against rules and orders, this particular slide should be your answer. You have to write what is audit against rules and orders, and then you have to state what are such rules and orders against which the auditor, the CAG, needs to check the compliances. Fourth is, what is fourth? To carry out examination of various rules, regulations, and orders issued by executive authorities to see that they are not inconsistent, they are consistent with essential requirements of the audit, they do not come in conflict with the orders made by any higher authority. For example, in school, the orders given by the teacher should not come in conflict with the orders given by the principal. So there should not be conflict between the orders of any two authorities. One authority sanctions, yes, 20,000 is the required expenditure. The other authority sanctions, no, 25,000. There comes a conflict. There should not be any conflict between the hierarchy of authorities regarding any rule and order. In case they have not been separately approved by a competent authority, the issuing authority possesses the necessary rule-making power. So if there is a separate competent authority set for making the rules, if the rules are not approved by that authority, somehow the issuing authority, the authority which issues the rules, which frames the rules, has a rule-making power. If they have been not approved by any competent, there is a separate competent authority, means the required officer, the required, you would say, the post. It is not a body, it is a post. The competent authority, the issuing authority. So the CAG has to check that various rules, regulations and orders, whether they have been issued by proper authorities, and he should carry out an examination of the same. Such rules or such orders issued should not be inconsistent with any law or the constitution, should not be inconsistent with their audit requirements, should not be of conflicting nature, and if they don't require the approval of any competent authority, the issuing authority of those rules have the sole power of making those rules. Okay. Okay, this is some minor information which can be read. This is just for your reading. The note beneath it is for your reading only. You can read it from here. I'll come to audit of sanctions now, which you guys asked me to explain in Hindi, and I have explained the same. Svikriti dena si fund ki. The auditor has to ensure that each item of expenditure is covered by a sanction. Proper sanction, either a special sanction or a general sanction. General is every day I ask for pocket money from my mom. Whatever she gives me, that is a general sanction. Sanction for the day, sanction for this week. Next month I'll increase your pocket money. Or I need money for my birthday treat. I need money for this particular project. That is a special sanction. And who's the competent authority? Your mom or your father? Anybody can be the competent authority as directed by the government. So auditor has to ensure that in the government departments, whatever expenditure is being made, it has been properly sanctioned, permitted by the competent authority. Competent means the authority which is competent enough, which is strong enough, which has been given the responsibility, which has the power to issue such expenditure, to issue the incurrence of such expenditure. The audit of sanction is to ensure that expenditure is properly covered by a sanction, and also to satisfy that the authority sanctioning it is competent by the virtue of powers given to it under the constitution or any law or any rules. Or if the powers had been delegated further, so the delegated authority has the competency to issue such sanction, to sanction such amount, to give permission to use that amount from that fund, to withdraw that amount from that fund. That is audit of sanctions. Please do not get confused with sanctions you are hearing on TV these days. Sanctions being put on against Russia, those sanctions are something very different, and that relates to economics. This sanction is giving internal sanctions. That is external. Pratibandh lagana, that is external sanction. This is internal. Sanction is giving permission within the body. Audit against provision of funds. So what is it saying? Expenditure incurred has been on the purpose for which the grant and appropriation had been provided. If you have been appropriating profits to make provision for a future expenditure, that provision has been used. Like you used to make provision for depreciation, provision for doubtful debts in accounts, and you'll use it while adjusting the accounts. And that the amount of such expenditures does not exceed the appropriation made. If you have appropriated 10 lakh rupees, the expenditure should be less than equal to 10 lakh rupees, less than the provision. It should not, like, it should not be in excess of the provision or the amount you have kept aside, appropriation made. So this is audit against provision of funds. Quite simple points. Okay, proprietary audit, and this is a favorite question asked in CA exams. I told you what is proprietary, uchit, as per the rational principles. So this is quite a favorite question asked in the CA exams. According to proprietary audit, the auditors try to bring out cases of improper, avoidable expenses which could be avoided, or infructus. Infructus means not yielding any result, not giving us any result. You sow a seed, it does not give you fruit. That was an infructus seed. So infructus means not yielding any result. It became sunk cost. So according to proprietary audit, the auditors try to bring out cases of improper, avoidable. I have used the language of the module here so that when you read the module, I could clear you certain terms, provide you the meaning of certain terms so that when you read it from the module or this presentation, you don't get confused. But it is not required of you to write such terms in the exam. If you can remember easily, you can use such terms. Otherwise, you can use other words as wasteful, not yielding any result, ineffective expenditure, right? So infructuous expenditure, even though the expenditure has been incurred in conformity with the existing rules and regulations. So you have incurred the expenditure as per the rules and regulations, but the expenditure did not yield any result, or it could be avoided, or it was improper. It could be expended, the expenditure could be made in a more fruitful manner. So what are the standards of financial propriety, financial wisdom, rational way to expend? The expenditure should not be prima facie more than the occasion demands. So the occasion is like that, the expenditure of 10,000 would serve the purpose. But the expenditure which was made by that particular department was 20,000, 25,000. As the CAG, I would say for this particular purpose, for organizing this seminar by the government, seminar could be any health awareness, family planning, any awareness seminar, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, hygiene, whatever the government policy program, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, or Jan Dhan Yojana, whatever program the government wanted to arrange seminars pan-India, across India. And even somewhere tier 3 cities, 5,000, tier 2 cities, 10,000, tier 1 city, 15,000 was enough. The seminar could be arranged, awareness seminar in this much amount. But somewhere in one of the departments, the cost came around 25,000, 30,000, 35,000. The CG says the occasion did not demand. Prima facie means directly you could perceive. Directly you could inference. Prima facie is on the face of. Directly you could see, you could get that this expenditure was not at all required. You do not have to work out anything. It is but obvious. Prima facie means it is being seen. It is but obvious that 15,000 was enough, more than enough. How come you were spending 35,000, such a wasteful expenditure on this particular occasion? So every public officer is expected to exercise the same vigilance. Vigilance means wisdom. Check, view, review, supervision. in respect of expenditure incurred from public money as a person of ordinary prudence. Prudence means समझ, खुद की समझ, समझदारी. Ordinary prudence, एक आम आदमी की समझदारी, ordinary prudence would exercise in respect of expenditure of his own money. So how well and in a planned manner you would have used your own money. You should be using the public money. It is expected of a government officer. You should be using the public money like that only. Okay, so this is the first point. No authority should exercise its power of sanctioning expenditure to pass an order which would be directly or indirectly to its own advantage. Corruption. You are sanctioning expenditure just because you have some interest in it, vested interest in it. No public or the government officer or authority should misuse its power to sanction expenditure or pass an order for an expenditure which is not required or which is required in a much lesser amount, but for directly or for your direct or to extract some direct or indirect advantage, you are sanctioning that expenditure. CAG will look upon it. So this is something which is related to rationality and wisdom of using the money. Public monies, the CAG shall check that the public monies should not be utilized for the benefit of a particular person or a section of the community. So the government officer should not be biased. It is the officer is using the public money for a particular person or a particular section of the community. It should be used for public at large. All are equal. The principle of equality, equity, justice should prevail. Unless, so there are some exceptions to it. If the money is being used for a particular person or a section of community, it should not be the case. But if it is the case, the following conditions should be met. The amount of expenditure involved is insignificant. You have been sanctioned money of 5 lakhs and you have used 500 to 1000 rupees for a particular person. Insignificant. A claim for the amount could be enforced in a court of law. What is that? So public money has been utilized for the benefit of a particular person, and you can claim for that particular amount in the court of law. If it is not insignificant, the government can claim back that amount in the court of law if it has been duped. A fraud has taken place or someone has submitted fake papers to get advantage of government funds. The expenditure is in pursuance of a recognized policy or custom, completely fine. The amount of allowances such as traveling allowances granted to meet expenditure of particular type should be so regulated that the allowances should not become a source of profit to the recipients. So there should be a check on the allowances. The government officers are being given allowances, different kinds of allowances. You might have read about them in your chapter of salaries under income tax. So they should be regulated in such a manner that no government officer, many times, performance audit. Performance audit covers efficiency, how well the work is being performed in the government departments relating to any policy or program. Economy, is the financial factor being considered? Funds are being expended in the most rational manner, and such expenditure is yielding good results. The expenditure is being made in the best possible manner economically, and it is giving good result. So these are the 3 types of audits covered under performance audit, and it is also known as full scope audit. So under performance audit, identification of topic, preliminary study, planning and execution of audit, and reporting. These are the steps of performance audit. You identify the topic, on what kind of performance audit do you have to conduct. Then you study preliminary for it. What do you need to know about it? You plan the audit, execute the audit, and finally report it. These are the 4 steps of performance audit. Quite simple. What does efficiency audit look into? Efficiency audit looks into whether the various schemes or projects are executed and their operations conducted economically and whether they are yielding the results expected of them. That is, the resources used to produce the goods and services are yielding the best of results. And the CAG examines the extent to which operations are carried out in an economical and efficient. Efficient means more work in less time. The quality should not be compromised. Efficient, highly efficient. I suppose we all have covered the difference between efficiency and effectiveness till now, reaching this stage. Economy audit. Economy audit looks into whether government have acquired the financial, human, and physical resources in an economical manner. The recruitments are being made and salaries are being given as per the industry trend. Machinery is required, some infrastructure required. That is why in government projects you get to see tenders. You get to see tenders because all interested parties bid in the tender and the person with the best quality and the lowest bid wins the tender. And he's given the governmental contract to carry out that work. So the best financial, human, and physical resources are acquired in the most economical manner. And whether the sanctioning and spending authorities have observed economy. Economy means the same thing. You are expending at the most economic, in the most economical manner. The quality is not compromised, but wasteful expenditure is avoided. Some services available at ₹10 per hour and you are getting it at ₹20 per hour. Where is the economy if the quality remains the same? Okay. Effectiveness audit is conferred the review, the appraisal of the performance of the governmental policies and programs where such expenditure has been made. Whether the overall targeted objectives have been achieved, as well as the efficiency of the means adopted for attainment of objectives. The last is what is efficiency cum performance audit. This is a different term. What is efficiency cum performance audit? Objective examination of the financial and operational carried out in any organization, any program or the authority of the government towards identifying various opportunities for more economy, more cost saving, and better yielding of results. So here, greater economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. Economy comes to efficiency, and effectiveness comes to performance. So this is what performance audit is. Okay, Surbhi, the expenditure in proprietary audit, the expenditure should not be prima facie more than the occasion demands. If the CAG feels that this particular event or any program of the government could be organized in 10,000 or 15,000 rupees, but this particular office of the government has expended 25, 30, 35,000, he can directly observe, the CAG can directly observe that there is no need of further working in this. I know this work can be done in 50,000. Why are they expending 35,000 or why are they expending 20,000? So this is what the general principle of propriety says. A person should expend the public money in the same manner. He should be as cautious as the government officer is spending his own money. While spending own money, you make budgets, you compromise on some part, something, you utilize it in the best manner possible. In the same way, public money should be utilized and wasteful expenditure should be avoided. This is point A of propriety audit. Okay, fine. Any doubt in expenditure audit, please? The topic of government audit is really important because you will be reading it again in your CA finals audit. It is a chapter in your CA finals audit as well, government audit. So any doubt till now in audit of expenditure? So under the audit of receipts, what does the CAG check? Whether all revenues or other debts due to the government. Debts due to the government means the government has lent money, industry, banks, whatever it is, in whatever form the government has lent money in the market. They are being correctly assessed, the interest is being properly realized, accrued, and credited to the government account by the designated authorities. For example, the taxation authorities. They collect tax from the citizens, taxpayers, assesses, not citizens, assesses. And what was the amount of tax collected? What has been deposited into the government accounts? There should not be any difference. And if there is any difference, any deviation, any gap, it should be properly explained and accounted for. Whether adequate regulations and procedures have been framed by that particular department, government department or agency, to secure an effective check on assessment, collection, and proper allocation of cases. Just take in mind the example of income tax or GST. There are proper assessment procedures, there are proper collection mechanisms, and the cases are allocated properly to the government officers to take care. There should not be any leakage in governmental revenue. Proper hearings are carried out, proper assessments are carried out to check out whether the revenues are being properly collected and being credited to government account or not. CAG will check this as well. Whether such regulations or procedures are actually being carried out or are they on the paper only. This is like the faceless assessment scheme in the income tax, whatever different kind of schemes and procedures. Are they on paper only or they are being worked upon on the ground level as well? Whether adequate checks are imposed to ensure the prompt means faster, detection and investigation of irregularities. So first they need to be detected if there are any irregularities. At an early stage, prompt means at an early stage they are detected and investigated. For example, double refunds issued to the income tax assessors, fraudulent or forged refund vouchers, loss of revenue through fraud, willful omission or negligence like bank frauds happened with public sector banks. There is negligence on the part of the government authorities, government officers. So the CAG will check that as well, whether proper policies are in place for the same or not. Surbi, professional skepticism and professional judgment is the answer to your question. Review of systems and procedures to see that the internal procedures adequately secure correct and regular accounting of demands collection, refunds. The internal controls are robust and secure. The dues are properly settled and the CAG suggests proper improvement. The basic principle of audit of receipts is that it is more important to look at the general than on the particular. Some general problems on the revenue aspect, receipts and general problems are more than specific problems. Through individual cases, of assessment, demand, collection, refund, etc. are important within the area of test check. If they are test checking some accounts, they can take up some individual areas, individual cases. Otherwise, the concern is generally overall on the working of the department with respect to the policies as for the receipts. Further, a review of the judicial decisions taken by the tax authorities is done to judge the effectiveness of the assessment procedure. So the tax authorities, cases go to them, appeals and everything. What decisions have they taken in that case? So the decisions, are they in the favor of the department or against? And if they are prejudicial to the interest of the department, are they as per the law? Are they correct as per the circumstances of the case? Or there is any malfunctioning involved? To judge the effectiveness of such assessment procedures. So this is basically audit of receipts is basically related to taxes, the major source of revenue to the government and the debts given by the government in the market. So whenever you study this point, just keep in mind the point of GST and income tax. You'll be able to recollect these points very easily. Audit of stores and inventory is very simple. What does the CG check? The purchase, receipt, issue, custody, sale, inventory of stores properly carried out or not. Stores and inventories are the trading departments, manufacturing departments of the government. To bring to the notice of the government any deficiencies in quantities of stores held or any defects in system of control. The purchases of stores are properly sanctioned, economical and in accordance with the rules. For example, you might have read in costing, you have to raise a requisition note. Then the purchase department invites tenders. People file tenders. The person with the best bid gets the contract. Then contract is executed. The goods are received with the department. They're kept in the godown or the store. The material is issued from the store by requesting, and it reaches the place or the factory or the manufacturing place where it is required. So this is what is the flow. So whatever policies or rules have been laid down, everything is being done as per that only. To ensure that the prices paid are reasonable and are in agreement with those shown in the contract for supply of stores. There should not be any variation. There should be proper certificates of quality and quantity available by the inspecting and receiving units. The goods obtained are not obsolete, are not broken. Proper inspection is done at the receiving point of time of those goods. To bring about cases of uneconomical purchase, goods are purchased at a very high rate or goods are purchased in a higher quantity than required, and losses attributable to defective or inferior quality of stores purchased. So these are some malfunctionings, mismanagements in the departments. So these should be checked by the CAG. Any excess or idle inventory is specifically mentioned in the report, and periodical verification of inventory is also conducted to ensure their existence. Quite simple cost audit related points. When priced accounts are maintained, the auditor should see that the prices charged are reasonable and have been reviewed from time to time. So a proper trail is maintained when and how much quantity was purchased. You guys have read about economic order quantity, reorder quantity. So a trail is maintained and checked what quantity was ordered at what price. Is there a rise in prices or a downfall in prices? that should be properly considered while giving the next order. And whatever is in the books, it is in the store as well physically. And if there is any revaluation with respect to the stores, the profit or losses should be adjusted accordingly in the books as well. So this is something which is related to the audit of stores and inventories. Okay. Then audit of commercial accounts. So basically the statutory bodies and corporations of the government, any other enterprises set up by the government, right? How is the audit of those commercial is where the government is making profits. Government's work is not to make profits, but the social welfare of the state. But commercial means these are public enterprises in which government has its own stake, and they are running towards the profit is not the sole objective there, but yes, it is one of the elements. So that comes under audit of commercial accounts. 3 types of governmental organizations are there. The first is the departmental enterprises engaged in commercial and trading operations which are subject to same laws, financial regulations and other government departments and agencies. The audit of departmental concerns is undertaken in the same manner as any other department of government where commercial accounts are kept. India Post, the example, India Post, the Postal Department of India. Statutory bodies and corporations, statutory bodies like the LIC and other bodies. What are statutory bodies and corporations? Which are set up under a law. So statutory bodies and corporations, they are created by specific statutes, laws, mostly financed by the government in the form of loans or grants. Some like the SIDBI type of organizations which are financed by the government. Audit of statutory bodies or corporation depends on the nature and type of the statute governing the bodies or corporations. Both financial and accounts audit are conducted by CAG, and where compilation of accounts is vested in the CAG, functions, normal standards of work usually followed by the professional auditors are adopted mutatis mutandis. So it says where the statutory, the accounts, of the statutory bodies and corporations are compiled by the CAG, and the maker and the checker will be the same as Surbhi pointed out. How would be it would be an independent audit? It will be an independent audit because the CAG is required to follow the same functions, same norms, same standard of work as usually followed by a professional auditor. And these all elements are adopted mutatis mutandis. Mutatis mutandis is a Latin term which means as it is, jaisa hai waise hi, with no variation or change in those principles or processes. Mutatis mutandis is a very good term. You can use it in your professional answers as well. You can use Latin terms in your answers as well. This gives strength to your answer writing. So mutatis mutandis means as it is, jaise hai waise hi usko use karna without any variation. So as a professional auditor would apply all those principles, the CAG will apply all those principles of audit mutatis mutandis in the case of statutory bodies and corporations. So audit of commercial accounts, 3 types of enterprises. First is departmental, second is statutory bodies and corporations, and the third is government companies set up under the Companies Act. We have done this. Auditors are appointed by the CAG, right? The government companies have their own auditors under the statute appointed by CAG, Companies Act 139 subsection 1 subsection 5. In addition, the CAG conducts a supplementary test audit of the accounts as well as periodical financial audit and appraisal of performance. So this is a different kind of story going on with CAG. The statutory audit is carried out by the auditor as per the Act. But the CAG, in addition, can conduct a supplementary test audit, surprise audits. Supplementary means in addition to the audit being carried out by the auditor under the Act that has been appointed by the CAG. That auditor carries out a statutory audit, CAG carries out its supplementary test audit and other periodical financial reviews as well. The CAG also issues direction to the company auditors for reporting on specific aspects of their audit work. These works are reviewed and condensed in the audit reports to the government legislatures. CAG has adopted the mechanism of an audit board comprising of representatives of the audit and nominees of government, including functional specialists to process reviews or appraisals of performance. So CAG comes up with a board in that particular organization where there are nominees of the government as well, some audit representatives as well. So this audit board includes all the functions. This audit board gets conducted, did all the reviews or appraisals relating to the performance of those government bodies. This audit board is given that particular responsibility. So when it comes to audit of commercial accounts, the scene that comes into action is public enterprises, which are making profits as well, along with serving the country. So three kinds of public enterprises: departmental, statutory bodies and corporation, and government companies. These are known as commercial accounts, and how does the CAG conduct the audit of these commercial accounts is covered over here. The last topic of the day is we are done with the duties of the CAG. Now the powers of the CAG. General powers. First we have covered general powers. What are general powers? To inspect any office of accounts under the control of the union or state government, completely fine. To require any accounts or books, papers and other documents which deal with the related to transactions in order to be sent to specified places. He can ask for those documents to be submitted to him or sent to any of his offices. To put such questions or make such observations as any auditor. All these powers are all related to any auditor, such that he may consider necessary to the person in charge and call him for such information, requiring the preparation of any account or report which is his duty to prepare. That particular person can call upon him for any information or any report which he was required to submit. In carrying out any audit, CAG has the power to dispense with any part of detailed audit. For example, this was step-by-step audit. The CAG says no step-by-step audit not required. I can get it done in 2 or 3 ways. So he has this power to dispense with detailed audits. And he can apply limited checks when he is confident enough that yes, with these limited checks, I can get to know about the irregularities. These are general powers. Then are the specific powers. What are the specific powers? Under section 143 subsection 5 of that. So first specific power is under section 143 subsection 5 of the Act. It states that in the case of a government company or any other company owned or controlled directly or indirectly by the central government alone or by any state government or one or more state governments or partly by the central government or partly by one or more state governments. So central government or any one state government or one or more state governments. The third case is partly by central or partly by one or more state governments. So any government company or any other company where this is the ownership structure, the CAG shall appoint the auditor under section 5 or subsection 7 of section 139, first auditor and subsequent auditor, and that auditor shall submit a copy of his audit report to CAG, right, as per his direction, and the CAG shall consider what action needs to be taken and what is the impact of the report of that auditor on the accounts and financial statement of that particular government company. We have read it earlier as well. We have read it earlier as well. So this is the power under section 143 subsection 5 of the Companies Act. Okay. The next specific power, section 143 subsection 6 of the Act. The control. Oh, just wait a minute. Did I say section? It is not. Sorry. Okay. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India shall, within 60 days from the date of receipt of the audit report, from the auditor he is appointed to conduct that audit. Power to dispense means छोड़ देना. Power to dispense means cut short कर देना. Dispense means छोड़ देना, रहने देना उस point को. So after receiving a report from the auditor, the CAG has appointed, within 60 days of the receipt of this audit report from the auditor, the CAG shall conduct a supplementary audit under section 143 subsection 6 clause A of the financial statement of that company by such person or person as he may authorize in this behalf. One or more persons. He'll authorize those persons, and for the purpose of such audit require information or additional information to be furnished to any person or persons so authorized. Jinko authorized ki hai, those who have been authorized here in point B. He'll ask for information to be furnished to such person or persons, and he may direct the carrying out of such supplementary audit as per his guidelines. Further, when these supplementary auditors submit their audit reports, the CAG shall comment upon the findings in such supplementary audit report. These comments of CAG shall be attached to the audit report, supplement the audit report, and these comments shall be sent by the government company to every person entitled to copies of audited financial statement under section 136 of the Companies Act. All the stakeholders who are being sent the notice of the annual general meeting, the financial statements are sent. So if a supplementary audit has been conducted by CAG, the report of that supplementary audit as well as the comments given by the CAG on the basis of that supplementary audit. Every member of the company, every trustee or debenture holder or debentures issued, anybody who is interested, and it should also be placed before the annual general meeting of the company at the same time and in the same manner as the audit report. When you are placing the audit report in front of members in the annual general meeting, the report, supplementary audit report, as well as the comments of the CAG on that supplementary audit report should also be read out in that meeting. Last specific power. First specific power was, okay, the sections. I think I made a mistake. I've quoted this section as section of the Companies Act. These are not the sections of the Companies Act. These are sections of the Act, Comptroller, Auditor General Duties, Functions and Powers Act, which we referred to in the previous slides. These are the sections of the Companies Act. Section 143, subsection 7 of the Act, test audit. So without prejudice to the provisions relating to the audit and auditor. Without prejudice means without hurting the sentiments of the law, without affecting the interest. It should not be prejudice means against the interest of. So without prejudice to the provisions relating to audit and auditor. The CAG in case of any company covered under subsection 5 or 7 of section 139, if we consider necessary by an order, cause test audit. We read about test audit to be conducted of the accounts of such company, and the provision section 19A of this act shall apply to the report of such test audit. Audit, supplementary audit and test audit. Right? These are the specific powers of the CAG of India. That finishes our topic of the day, government audit. Any doubts with respect to these topics, please? I can, if just give me 2 minutes, I'll read. These audit reports. Any other doubts, please? Okay. Pooja, CAG requires proper exams to be cleared, like the staff selection commission, and then you have to get to the post, some post in the Indian Audit and Accounts and Audit Department. It is something which is an elevated post. Step by step, with experience and giving exams, a person becomes a CAG. Kushi test audit is something like the CAG can, without affecting the provisions what we have covered in section 143 subsection 6, those the test audit does not replace the normal audit, which is a statutory audit, right? So without affecting that, this is something which is in addition to the statutory audit. At any point of time, the CAG can get the test audit conducted and get its report prepared as per his wish and choice. Yes, please. Any other doubts? Okay, then thank you so much for the day. We'll meet tomorrow with some other important topics, and some interesting topics we'll take up tomorrow. And if there are any doubts still left, you can always ask and get those doubts cleared while the start of the next session. If any query, Surbhi, I cannot see. If I'll just go through all the queries again. If any query is still left out to be answered, I'll answer them in the next class. Please don't worry about that. Okay? Chali. Take care for the day. Good night. Bye bye. Ranji. Yes, yes. Okay, you.